season right now, so that's
Oh yeah, I
always
feel the
fun.
pain.
Awesome. All right. So okay, boom, boom. Need that. All right. So if you're ready, we can jump. I'll do the intro and we'll jump into it.
I'm ready.
Awesome. Yeah. Welcome everybody to another live and Amplified Livecast. I'm your host Tom Quiet, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today we have a returning special guest. It's been 8 months, I think, right? We had you on in June, if I'm not mistaken. We have
Yeah, I think so.
Brenda Carsey joining us again. How's it going?
Hi everybody. It's going good. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, for sure. When you reached out to me, I was like, yeah, let's do this. I remember the last
Yay.
conversation we had was really good. So
Yeah.
excited.
And then I also was like, I haven't talked to you since, like the beginning of this whole
Yeah,
current saga that I'm on. So
yeah. Which
good to
it's
catch in.
getting to kind of getting the opportunity to follow your music from when we first were introduced to each other back last summer, and just kind of getting to listen to a lot of the stuff you've been doing since then. It's been really amazing. I've really enjoyed. I haven't had a chance to listen to the full album yet, but
That's okay.
when you have a 10-minute car ride to and from work, it's like you get one song, maybe two if you're lucky, and then yeah. So, but from what I've heard, it's been absolutely amazing, and really excited to jump into it. So,
Thanks, man. I
um,
appreciate it.
so obviously we're just coming off the holiday season, and we're fresh into 2023, like
Oh yeah.
little over a month. How have things been going so far for you?
Things have been really, really good for the most part. There was like two really intense things that happened right at the turn of the new year. Um, One was me losing a job, which was really unfortunate, and one was a family health thing that I'll not be too detailed about. But it
Yeah.
was a really rough start to the year. But then I released the album like 10 days after all that happened, and
Mhm.
still wanted to press forward with everything that was scheduled and planned and all that. And then 2 weeks after that, I did a giant album release show in Los Angeles where we did an 11-piece band, and we performed the album top to bottom.
Yes.
And it was just so much fun. So all that has been really, really positive, and just a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad that you were able to kind of take those negative situations and not let them deter you. You know, uh,
Yeah.
20, 2021, I went through a couple of similar things like that, and would have been very easy to be like, "Yep, I'm good. I'm gonna just, you know,
Yeah.
I'm done." But
Yeah.
just kind of the fact that you were able to uh, stick to your plans and get the album out and all that stuff. I'm really glad you were able to kind of
Thanks.
stick with it. So
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah, I feel like just, things happen that are out of your control. And our goal, I think, as humans is to kind of just face it with grace and try to not detach in like a disconnected way, but just kind of detach in the sense that
yeah,
acknowledge that you don't have control over it, and that
yeah,
that you will figure it out and things will work out in some way. Some
hmm
way.
yeah. It's kind of or it's kind of helped mold my motto in life, which is it is what it is, and it's like that sounds mean and heartless, but it's like
That's very Californian of you.
yeah, I've only
Yeah.
been to California once in my life, so it's like yeah, but it's just one of those things. For whatever reason, I started saying that about 5 years ago, and it just it explains everything in a very
Mhm.
short sentence. So,
Yeah.
but, um, so let's jump. Obviously, 2023 has been a busy, hectic year for you, but you were able to get the album out. How long have you been working on this album?
The album we started, in regards to just writing the music for it,
Mhm.
that started in 2018, believe it or not. And then we were slated to go into the studio the top of 2022, or excuse
Mhm.
me, the top of 2020,
Yeah.
to start recording. And that got postponed for obvious reasons.
Yep.
And then we finally went into the studio to move forward with everything in the very end of April of 21.
Mhm.
So just about like 13 months after we were supposed to. Um, and we tracked it all in 9 days, all 13
Yes.
tracks, and we mixed it kind of just over a chunk of time, like when we all had time, because we have lives and stuff going on. So we mixed it over like a few months and mastered and all that, and then everything was completely done and ready to go by the end of 2021.
Yes.
And then I just did a bunch of like strategic planning and didn't want to rush it because we had already waited for so long. And I was like, it's been such a journey, like actually seeing this thing through and finishing it. So I took a lot of time to just kind of reflect on which songs to release and how and when and why and all that fun stuff, do the photo shoots, do all that other stuff that comes with it. And then we started releasing things when I met you in June of 2022 is when we first started sprinkling out this album.
I literally had to go back and look because for some reason I felt like it had been longer than that. Because
It feels like
it's 2023 so far has been one of those years where a lot of musicians that I met during the beginning of the pandemic, so like mid 2020, they're starting to come back around with new music.
Right.
And so they're starting to come back around on the podcast. And for whatever reason, I was just like, I feel like this was a late 2020, 2021 podcast. And then I went back and looked, I was like, nope, 100% wrong. 2022. So yeah.
A lot's happened.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So this album, you said you started working on it in 2018, but obviously you've released music.
Just the music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously, and then you were planning on going in to record it in 2020. But obviously you've released a lot of music since then. You had your Box Cutter album and then a bunch of singles in between then.
And Sirens, yeah. I mean, those Box Cutter again was just an accident and an experiment and was a byproduct of being locked in my house during 2020. So that was just something that happened because I couldn't do what I wanted to do. And then Sirens was something that I had released a couple singles. I released 2 singles in 2019 for that album. And then I decided, I was like, should I release it? It was something I wasn't sure if I was going to release. Is where I'm going with this, because it wasn't technically like the genre that I am or, the thing I want to be known for, which is like more, that album is very acoustic folk music. But again, shutdown happened. I was like, well, let's release everything.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So you finished kind of or you started doing the strategic planning as far as like releasing singles and stuff for first off, what's the name of the album? I'm not going to sit here and butcher the name of this.
It's Cognizance.
Cognizance. Okay.
Yes.
I was sitting here, I was like, I could try and pronounce this, but I'm going to butcher it no matter which way, but it is what it is. So you'd started releasing singles in 2022. How did you go through the process of selecting what singles you wanted to put out?
The very first single I knew had to be the first single from the moment I wrote the song. I was like, this is the one, because I feel like it encapsulated the album as a whole, myself as an artist as a whole, like how I feel about music. It was everything. So that one was a no-brainer. And then the second single, we kind of toyed around between 2 of them and just landed on the one that we did because I thought that the production, like the end result of the capturing of that song sounded better. So some was just like that. It wasn't about like the song being any better, but it was just like the mix and the recording quality we got. It was just like, the one. And then, so that was the second single. And then the third one, I knew that I wanted to release one guitar one because there's a couple of guitar ones on the album. And that way people got like a whole visual, maybe of like the whole landscape of the album. So that's why we chose one of those. And then the fourth single was just like wrapping it back up with like a very neo soul song from the album, again, to paint this like picture of the diversity. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask this question. I kind of feel like I know the answer to this one, but in every cover art for all the singles leading up to Cognizance, there's a very prominent color in each. That's very intentional?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Is it?
Yeah.
What was the thought process going into that? Was it like it just kind of, this is the color I'm feeling for the song, or?
Yes, it was something I had never done. I will say that it is a very popular style of headshot photography in Los Angeles. for creatives, and it's something that I myself had never done. I've never done like a solid color backdrop with me and done like that kind of a headshotty, like whatever type of photo shoot before. And so it was something I knew I wanted to do, but I wanted to do it with like a retro flair. So I don't know. Yeah, that's basically it. I just like, it was just big girl pants type of shit, man. So I was just like, okay, so we made this stuff. We put all this money, all this time, all this heart and soul into it. So now how do we market this thing successfully? How do we embody the energy of the song in a photo? How do we get something eye-catching enough that people will like look for a second? And all those kinds of things were at play in there. It was a very businessy thing, but the shoot itself was creative. It was fun and like explorative. And I mean, I love like photo shoots. Morgan is who shot everything, and he was really wonderful to work with. And we actually shot the yellow background, the red background, the green background, and the purple in one day. We shot all that in one day with a lot of planning. It was an 8-hour shoot day and a lot of costume changes and makeup changes. And then the flower ones, which was for the fourth single, because I wasn't sure if we were going to do that, I shot with another photographer named Tammy.
That kind of explains the different style. Like it's like there's a lot of in the first three for Just Trying to Do My Thing, Party's Over, and I'm Sorry. There's a lot of contrast in the photos, and then not saying that Man of Mine is washed out, but it's just very
it's softer.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And again, they're all creative decisions, so it's like a very feminine, energetically song. So we just leaned into that in color palette and like the texture and the feeling. And then Cognizance, actually, the reason you get that washed out is because the photographer used a literal lens or a literal filter. So filters before they were online things or physical things you'd put over the lens that would change the quality of it. So we used a specific filter for that to get the effect that we got.
When I was building out the promo graphic for this, I took the shot from Cognizant, the album cover, like the raw photo for it, or not the raw photo, but just like the photo without the title on it for the promo graphic. And I was sitting there looking at it. I'm like, wait, did I distort this image? Like, just for whatever reason in my head, I was like, did I distort this image? What did I do? And I went back and looked at like the actual raw photo. I was like, nope, that's just the style that they went with. Okay.
Are you talking about the one that I posted recently though, where I was standing? Or are you talking about the actual like cover?
I actually have the Photoshop file sitting right here. Let me pull it up. I will.
Like, is it the?
It's the one you're standing.
So that's not the album cover. That's just an additional marketing photo, and it was the first time that I had shared it just the other day.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So
because we were celebrating the 1 month anniversary of the album, so I was saving that photo for something special.
Gotcha. Awesome. So, album's been out about a little over a month. What's kind of running through your mind right now? Now that like this 4 or 5 years of hard work is kind of paid off now.
I'm really happy overall, like with the love that I've been getting, and like it seems that people are really enjoying it and connecting with it, and that's all you can really hope for as a musician. It's all we want to do is connect with people and make people like feel things, feel like they're not alone, like reflect on their own experiences through the assistance of like song and poetry and stuff like that. And also the other thing on the forefront of my mind is to answer that question is like figuring out how to tour this album now this year. I
mean, 2023 is going to be a good year to do that. Like I feel like 2022 is kind of that year where a lot of the big names finally got out and toured and did all that stuff. And if like indie bands were able to get out and do like a small little loop, cool. But if not, they kind of stayed locally. But this year, I think it's just going to be full force, like shows, everything. I've gotten so many emails about, oh, hey, so-and-so's coming through and they're going to be in Dallas or something. And I'm like, great. Now I got to try and either go to Austin, Dallas, or, like at least once a week. And it's like, I can't afford going to Dallas once a week. That's insane. But no, just I think 2023 is going to be a good year, and I'm really excited. Hopefully see you in Texas at some point. That'd be amazing.
I tried. I did want to go to South by Southwest this year, but I did not apply I missed the cutoff
Yeah.
because I didn't realize how far out they began accepting
Oh, yeah.
application submissions for that, which is like 6 months out. And
Mhm.
so I wasn't prepared at that point, but it's okay. Maybe next year, or
Yeah.
I mean, next year.
Yeah. I actually found out just recently that they do out in East Texas, they do a spoof of South by Southwest called North by Northeast.
Mm.
And it's like a really small festival. It's like
That's
super small.
that's not in Texas. They do North by Northeast in Portland or Seattle or wherever that is. It's in the
It,
Pacific Northwest.
they also do one in, there was a very, it's like super small, low key, like maybe four
Mm.
bands. They do it in East Texas as well,
Oh,
which is,
nice.
so like, I mean, I'm not, it's just one of those things where it's like, I'm sure this one's just so small that they just kind of get away with. Yeah. But,
Hmm.
um, that it's always fun to kind of see those little spin-off of things. So, yeah. Um, so Cognizance is out now. Anybody can, it's on Spotify, all the regular streaming platforms. One thing I did want to talk about, as we were chatting a little bit ago, about like just the fact that you thought 360 degrees about the release of this album. I want to kind of
Hmm.
focus in on this a little bit because I think a lot of musicians could really learn from this, because they make this amazing song and then they don't think how to promote it or how to get it out there, and it's like you're kind of making the cake without putting eggs in it, or just like something really simple like that. So
Yeah.
um was it from when you started writing the song, was it a complete vision from the beginning, or did it just
No.
kind of start, you know, coming clear
No.
as you? Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's definitely wasn't a complete vision. It's just, as an artist, you're just creating when you feel
Mhm.
moved to create. So it just was when I felt moved to create. And then
Gotcha.
at a certain point in time, there was enough songs that I fished through them and like reflected on them and listened to them and was like, which ones actually go together, which ones make sense together. And I'm like, and is there a through line in what I was like experiencing at the period of time I was writing all this? And that, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's how you create a body of work, which is
Yeah.
what an album is. For people doing singles, I don't think that that's the same process at all.
Mhm.
But for doing an album, it's not about, I think that's not true. Some people like set out and they go like, I'm going to write an album right now and write it all in like a
Mm.
week or 2 weeks
Yeah.
together. But for myself, I didn't do that.
Yeah. That's insanity. For musicians that can just sit down and bang out an entire album in 2 weeks, it's like their mind works differently. Like
Yeah.
it's
I think
it's
actually most artists, and
Mhm.
again, not everyone who writes songs is an artist, but I think like most artists who are musicians who, if given the privilege and the space and the opportunity to
Mhm.
be financially supported to just focus on creating, I actually think a lot more of us would be able to do something like pump out an album in 2 weeks. I actually don't think that that's that intense
Mhm.
of an expectation of a
Yeah.
creative person who's like a professional creative.
Yeah.
I think most of the time it's just life that gets in the way and pulls you away and distracts you. And like we're not given the space or the opportunity to pour
Mhm.
ourselves into our art because of everything else we have to do.
Yeah, that's true. And
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's because like especially during that first like full year of the pandemic, I saw a lot of musicians doing um like a new song, like they were writing brand new songs every single day, and so they were like writing, recording, releasing,
Right.
and they do it for a year straight, and that blew my mind. Like
Right.
it was just kind of like
Yeah.
wow. So I mean, I guess it's kind of sitting on the same par as that. It's just a little bit
It's
longer of a
basically the
sprint.
same thing. Yeah,
Yeah. That's it's mind-boggling. It
it
just to me,
is.
because it's like I sit here and I work on videos and it takes me like a week to get a video concept laid out and all this stuff. And then I see some musicians that are able to just do a full body of work in a week or two. And I'm like, I don't know how you do it. Because
That's so funny.
yeah,
I feel like they're just incomparable, very different art forms.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Um, so what's kind of you'd mentioned that you're trying to figure out the plan as far as touring with the album. Where are you kind of at there? I know you got some dates on the website and whatnot, but
I mean, those are all just, so I'm a full-time musician, like a
Mhm,
working musician. So
mhm,
most of those are just my job.
mhm,
A lot of those gigs, and they're all local. Um, But so I mentioned I lost the job right at the top of the new year. So unfortunately, my plans of like touring much sooner, I was going to tour like in the spring, have to kind of be pushed back just because of financial reasons, unfortunately. I did just raise a little bit of money this past Bandcamp Friday, which was really sweet of people who like contributed and participated in that. It like means everything. So I'm setting like that small amount that was raised aside to go towards touring. But I definitely, point in my story, is I want to tour as a 4-piece band and not as much as just alone, which is primarily what I do, which I will do that. I will tour alone this year because it's easy, it's fast. I can go wherever I want, do whatever I want. But I do want to at least do a 4-piece band, like a small band. And if maybe not like a huge tour, but just like a couple weeks here, maybe a couple weeks there, and like, you know, do like two or three, like, you know, 2-week runs like throughout the year. It's like maybe 6 weeks total with a band, because I don't think that I can afford any more than that right now.
For sure.
Yeah. And then I might, like, before the shutdown, I used to go to like New York every year. I used to go to Nashville every year. I used to go to, like, there's a bunch of places I would go every year. And right before the shutdown, for example, like Nashville, I went there alone, but then I, you know, like hired a band there in town, because there's so many amazing, talented players there. So I might do that if I can't like literally bring everyone with me from here. But the plan is to like just get out there in the world and figure it out, and not overwork myself though, or my health is, you know, completely ruined. But
you got to take care of yourself. Like I've definitely been on trips where like taking cross country road trips where it's just like, all right, we don't sleep for 2 weeks. Like we're just driving, you know, and then you come back from this trip and you wonder why you're deathly ill. And it's because you hadn't slept in 2 weeks and you've been eating potato chips from the gas station, you know, just, So, what's one place you're really hoping to get to this year? I know you said before the pandemic you traveled a lot.
I'd like to return to the Pacific Northwest, only because I haven't been there since 2017. Actually, it's been a really, really long time. So I'd like to do like Oregon, Washington, Idaho, et cetera, just like, I definitely want to go back to Nashville because I miss it, and probably do like Nashville, Louisville, like Atlanta, do that little thing. Definitely want to go back to New York. Normally when I go to New York, I just stay in New York, but I would like to, if possible this time, do like a Jersey, Philly, New York, do like this triangle over there. And then I'm also trying to go back to Alaska.
Oh, wow.
Which I had so much fun touring in before the shutdown and haven't been back since. So we'll see. I'm hoping to go back there again. And then the last place would be just like, definitely, I mean, California, which is where I live, Arizona, just that, like, you know, all that kind of stuff. Texas as of now, I would like to go, but I just don't know anybody. So I would have to do a lot of research about local bands and venues. I'd be starting from scratch in Texas. I know nothing.
Texas is a big place. Like it's one of those things where, you know, like the issue that I have so I'm in Waco, Texas, is we're like in the middle of the triangle between Dallas, Houston, and Austin. So any musician that comes out of like this area that starts to get a little bit of attention or starts to get a little bit of a following, they're moving to Dallas, Houston, or Austin.
Right.
And they leave as quickly as they can.
Right.
And that's it's one of those things where it's like, I get it. It's unfortunate, but you know, so you get the musicians that you can while you can, but a lot of them are going to mostly Austin because, I mean, it's Austin. Let's be honest here. But yeah, there's a lot of really cool venues, a lot of independent friendly venues in Texas, just in general. So.
Oh, I believe it. I'm sure there's the whole middle of the country. I would like love to tour just because I've heard so many amazing things from just so many people that I know from having been in the music industry for so long that like tour and you just get treated really well. And like people put you up places to sleep. There's like a different courtesy that comes, I think, from touring in the middle of the country than you get on the coasts.
Yeah.
But I've also heard that it's mostly like, for lack of a better word, working class musician gigs, meaning that you're doing like 3 hours, 4 hours, even if you're an artist, an original artist, unless you're doing like a showcase, right? Or obviously if you're doing a night with multiple bands, but like normally you're doing 3 hours and stuff, which I do professionally, but touring that is almost impossible. If you're singing 3 hours a night, every single night for weeks straight, and you have to talk to fans and sell merch and stuff, like you won't have a voice by day 5. You'll just be exhausted, and then it'll come back on day 8 and you'll be fine. But
and it's also one of those things where on those working class gigs where you're really not playing that much originals because you're probably at a bar,
you're entertained. Exactly.
They want
which is amazing, and like those are totally fun gigs, and those gigs help offset the cost of tour, and that's you got to do those gigs, honestly. But I'm like, so it's kind of negotiating all that and how realistic, how long we want to be out, how far it takes to get there, all those things. But I definitely have like tour aspirations, and I love being out on the road. I love meeting new people. So definitely for anyone out there who wants to like have me come to where you live, like please feel free to message me on social media. I'm also on bands in town. I love doing house concerts. If anyone's like, if you need an excuse, we'll host you here. Like I'm super open. So feel free to reach out to me.
Awesome. I will. There's a venue that I don't want to say work closely with, but I know the owner, and he's always looking for bands out in Roswell, New Mexico. So if you ever want to go hang out with the aliens.
That'd be fun.
But you brought up New York, and it's been a dream. I've said this for the last 6 months that I was going to go to New York at some point this year. And I still want to make that happen, but I was going to go catch a baseball game because I'm a Chicago White Sox fan, and there was a weekend that I had available that the White Sox were going to be in New York. And I was like, oh, cool. I'm going to go watch that game, except the tickets are already sold out. Like I didn't know that I didn't know that Yankees tickets sell out like that. So I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, I see how it is. That's fun. But no, it's still New York's like would be a bucket list item to
that's such a easily attainable goal for you, Tom. So I think you got that. It's only the beginning of February, so you got a whole year to figure that out.
For sure. And it's one of those things where it's just kind of like I haven't done it yet. So in the back of my head, it's like I've had 7 years to do it. Just pick a weekend and go. So
I think like my advice, if you're willing to hear it for anything like that, for anybody in the planet, is if you're like, I would like to do this, buy the ticket. And even if it's like 9 months away, you buy your plane ticket, and then you're like, oh shit, I guess I'm doing it. And then you buy it far enough out there, you're like, okay, what am I going to do when I get there? What am I doing? Where am I staying? All that stuff comes after. If you do one action to like start that momentum, then it'll all of a sudden the date will be there, and you're like, oh crap, I guess I'm leaving tomorrow to go do the thing that I wanted to do. So just do it. Just take one little baby step, and all the details you can fill in later.
That's fair. Very fair. It's actually, now that you mention it that way, that's kind of what I did to go visit my dad. I'm going to visit my dad in a couple of weeks. And he, for the last 9 months to a year, he's been like, you really need to come down to Florida and visit me, because like I haven't been back down to Florida since my mom passed away. So it's just kind of like, it's one of those things where it's like, he comes here, we meet in Chicago. I don't necessarily need to go back to Florida.
Right.
And for like specifically the last 6 months, he was like, you really need to come down to Florida and just hang out. And I'm like, I'll do it. Just kind of pushing it off. And then about a month ago, I just randomly was on Kayak, and they had a ticket from Dallas to Miami for $106 round trip.
Nice. Whoa.
And I'm like, I've got $106. All right. Ordered it, and I called my dad. I'm like, well, hey, what are you doing February, whatever to whatever? He's like, I'm getting ready to put in my work schedule now. So why? I'm like, I just bought a ticket and I'm coming down. And he's like, All right, cool.
Nice.
So
That's
yeah,
great.
yeah. It's it was very spontaneous the way it happened. So
That's amazing.
yeah. So with uh with Cognizance out now, are you already looking where are you kind of at as far as new music? Or are you just kind of always writing or all that fun?
I'm laughing because I do have new music already.
Okay.
Um, I have been continuing to write, but I think it's the musician's plight to,
Yeah.
because I've been sitting with these songs for a while, but no one else in the world has. So I
Yeah.
have to resist the urge of moving on
Mm,
so that I can do my due diligence and give this album justice.
yeah.
So as far as anyone's concerned, no, I have no new music at all. Only Cognizance. You must
Yeah.
listen to Cognizance for at least
Sure.
the next year before I give anyone anything else, because so
Sure.
much
Yeah.
money and time and like so much went into it. So I can't move on that fast. But I do, yes, I have stuff,
Yeah.
but maybe next year. Even though
That's
I'm ready to do it now, but I won't let myself. I can't.
That's very fair because it's like if you think of Cognizance, like you started writing in 2018, and then obviously 2020 hits, and you're not able to get like everything recorded and done
Yeah.
until
I'm a
2022.
I'm a year and a half behind schedule,
Yeah,
basically. Hmm.
I mean that's always something that I bring up, like especially because it feels weird to still be talking about the pandemic, but in reality, everybody's year at least a year and a half behind schedule as
Yep.
far as releasing stuff. So
Yeah.
some people are fast tracking it, where it's like, okay, we're just releasing as much as we humanly can. And then some people are just kind of like, nope, I'm just going to move the entire schedule down a year and a half. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I think this is the best album that I've ever made. And
mm,
I'm so grateful that it happened,
mm,
that I do want to allow myself to relish the follow through and the success of
mm,
just having done it.
mhm.
It's also the first album that I've ever made a vinyl record for.
Nice.
There's a lot of elements involved, and also including me not having toured this music
Mm,
yet, because it's so much has happened in
mhm.
between.
Yeah.
And I went out of town a lot last year, but only in California. I didn't leave the
Mm,
state last year, but I did do like 16 different cities in California.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's worth, I think, waiting, and it's worth sharing this. And I just, based on like what I've heard and like the really sweet things people have been writing me and messaging me, I know that there's a place and a reason and a purpose for this album and
Mm.
this music. And I just want to give it some time to breathe,
Yeah, very fair.
Yeah.
That's 100% fair. So, eh, with Cognizance, other than the singles that you had released, was this the first time that anybody had heard this music, or had you been playing it at shows prior?
Well, I had been playing it because, again,
Okay.
2018. So
Yeah.
there was probably, let me think, probably like five of the out of 13 songs I was playing
Okay.
live, which was actually really positive. And again, like maybe like one or two of them I played in 2018, but then like the other ones were in 2019, for
Yeah.
example. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. Fair.
Um, I think it's really important to play your songs live before you record them, because that's how you figure out if you like it or not, if you want to edit it, if you or not, if you figure out different like instrumentation for it.
Mm,
And I am known like locally for playing with a pretty big band in Los
yeah.
Angeles, anywhere from like 6 to like 12 people, it just depends. So yeah, so some of these like bigger songs, like Party's Over, for example, is an
Yeah.
older one that I've been playing, that I already knew what was going to be on it.
Mhm.
I'd been playing with strings for years. The horns were what were new.
Yeah.
I haven't played with horns really live before, until my album release show. It was the first time I've done horns live, but I knew I wanted them on the album and on the song. So yeah, Point of My Story is about five of them on the record
Yeah.
people have heard in the world, which is like Party's Over
Mhm.
and Home and Unfortunate Men and Rebel Walls. Um, Definitely those four. Those have been like a part of my set for sure since 2018. Anybody who's heard me live since
Yeah.
then. But a lot of the other ones, like Bang Bang and Man of
Mm,
Mine and Just Trying to Do My Thing and Goat and Bull and I'm Sorry and
yeah.
Have You Ever Hid Love Away? All these other ones I wrote. When was that? Like towards like maybe mid 2019. And that's when I was like, I'm ready to go in the studio. I have like the albums done, you know, so that's why we're going to go in 2020, because all these other songs kind of came after. And you can tell they're just, I was starting to morph and change into a different person, I think, through a lot of stuff that I went through even before the shutdown. Yeah, I hope that answered your question. But yeah, a lot of them are have not been heard until the record.
Gotcha. That, you know, because it's always kind of interesting, you know, some musicians that are just starting to write their own music, like they write it and then they record it, and they don't, there's really not that lag time to write it, let it like naturally mature and gain its own, like I like to say, let it gain its own legs, because when you play it, it's like, okay, in your head it's an up tempo number, but then when you play it, people are just kind of not responding it to it, and then you kind of slow it down, or you like change it, and then you kind of see where people start to respond to it. But a lot of the younger musicians nowadays, because they're starting to write so young, and maybe they just can't get out and play shows, because let's be honest, a lot of the venues are bars, and they're not going to let a 14-year-old come in and play music. Well, and I mean, I guess LA is like a completely different animal, because unless you're, what is it, 18? You got to be 18 to play shows in LA?
It depends. There's places where you can be any age, but they're mostly open mics or coffee shops or different environment.
I had heard different situations where they some musicians went out to LA to play, and they weren't allowed to because they weren't 18 or 20, whatever it was. So I thought that was,
I don't think it's not a state rule. It's just like a venue, whatever they want to do in their private business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think that like, I actually think it's really great to, so every single song that I've ever written, and I'm not exaggerating, I've never edited ever. Just to be clear. So what changes for me is like the instrumentation, like how I imagine it being captured in a record setting, as opposed to like a live setting. So I don't think that young people out there need to necessarily edit their work. It's just more about, if you're writing songs that like make you happy and that you connect with, and that is the most important thing to you, then you're already where you need to be. If you want to write songs where you're like, but I intentionally want people to like booty clap to this, then maybe you need to edit it so it specifically falls into like your end goal. But for me, I'm just writing to write. I'm not writing with like an end goal of who I'm trying to manipulate, or who I'm trying to like, you know, like I'm not trying to stay in one lane, I suppose, of genre or a vibe or whatever. It's just organic writing. So, and I'm very grateful that whatever reason, like when I write a song, if I think it's dope, like if I don't think it's dope, I'll like rework it and I'll edit it in that regard, like privately. But if I think it's dope, the second I play it for myself once and I finish it, I'm like, that's fucking dope. Then I never edit myself ever again. I'm like, it's dope. If I like it, it's dope.
For sure. So you mentioned that during the process of writing this album you started going through a metamorphosis from when you first started to like the end product. When you finally got to the point where you were in the studio and like ready to record, did you think about, was there kind of a point where you thought maybe I should go back and rework some of these earlier songs to kind of?
Never.
No. You know, just because and not saying one way or the other, it's just like usually, or sometimes I've heard some people say, like when they go through that metamorphosis, it's like, okay, these 4 songs don't fit anymore, so let me either go back, rewrite them, or replace, you know, like whatever it is. So
I had a list of 18 songs and I put it down to 13. So I just picked the ones that I felt were the best and were from the same period of time, and that I felt like had to be together as like one cohesive project. I maybe would say that I did spend time editing and composing specifically like string parts and like horn parts, but I wasn't like editing the song itself, like the lyrics or like the melody or when the verse and the chorus, like the structure of the song, none of that was edited.
For sure. You know, it's just there's so much that goes into an album, so it's always interesting to kind of just dive into these little things that most people won't think about.
Yeah.
And so another thing that I wanted to talk about, because you've mentioned it several times, about it in the album, you have like the big full band with strings, horns, and stuff like that. But then, yes, occasionally you'll do those big band live
Mhm.
shows, but in theory, you'd like to, you also do like those smaller shows, whether it's you acoustic or you with or you as a 4-piece. Do you ever worry about misrepresenting yourself? Because like I've seen a lot of musicians that they put out these albums that are like these fully produced things, and then
Mhm.
they go and play and it's just them solo acoustic, and
Mhm.
it's just kind of like two different vibes.
Yeah, I think the kind of music that I write in general is probably going to draw more of an audiophile type audience. I
Mhm.
don't think that the music I write is for like people who only listen to top 40.
Yeah.
So most people who are going to become fans of mine are going to be willing to participate in that diversity, and they're going to
Mhm.
like that my live set
Yeah.
is different than my
Yeah.
audio recording, because it's two different art forms.
Yeah.
Being a live performer and a studio
Mhm.
a recording artist, as they say, I think are two different art forms.
Yeah.
But no, I think that maybe another like advantage is that I'm doing all organic music, like
Mhm.
it's not digital music. So I think if you do like this really big clubby,
Yeah.
electronic, like highly produced music, and then you play acoustic, it will be really jarring.
Mhm.
Which is why a lot of people play with tracks now when they
Yeah.
play live, because they can't go without it. But for me, I think because every single thing that I'm recording is all just organic live
Mhm.
music, that you still get that feeling even
Yeah.
if I'm alone.
Yeah.
Um, and I like leaving in general. If you listen to the album, I like leaving a lot of space for
Mhm.
especially drums and bass to
Mhm.
just be dope anyway.
Yeah.
So I think if you have drums and bass and singing, I actually don't think you need anything fucking
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
Yeah.
I happen to be a pianist, so I would prefer to play a piano as well, but I don't think
Yeah.
that I think those are the three things that people connect with the most, are
Mhm.
feeling the most. So even like a 3-piece, I think you're set.
Yeah.
Um,
Like it
but
for
yeah, I've
me.
also, yeah, go ahead.
No, I
Sorry.
was gonna say, for me, it's like as long as you can recreate it live, even if it's not to the like, I'm not listening to it to the T. Be like, oh, there was a snare hit that they met, like they don't have that snare hit, and like
Right,
I'm
right.
not listening to it that close. But as long as it's like, if you produce a song and it's got like drums, guitar, piano, and like that sort of stuff, but then you come
Hmm.
out and all you're playing is acoustic guitar, it's like,
Yeah, I think it's like I said,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
so here's like a weird example.
mhm,
If Elton John came out and played Benny and the Jets by himself on a piano,
mhm.
you wouldn't feel let down
That's fair,
just
very
because
fair.
there isn't
Yeah,
drums and bass there,
yeah,
because he wrote and sang the song,
mhm,
well, with the help of Bernie, but you know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
And I'm a similar artist in the sense
mhm,
that 100% of the song I'm playing and compose the
mhm,
entire time
yeah,
in my bedroom
mhm,
as a singer-songwriter first.
yeah,
So
yeah,
everything else is just like fluff
yeah,
that was added. So I
yeah,
think when you strip it down, again, that doesn't work with every genre, but I
yeah,
think specifically for singer-songwriters,
mm,
like it was written on with a voice and an instrument. So when you take everything away, you
yeah,
still have the meat or the bones, maybe not the
yeah,
meat, but you have like the bones of the song.
yeah,
And then like the drums and the bass are like the muscle, and
yeah,
like the guitar and the strings and the horns and the harmonies and all that are all just like
yeah,
flesh and skin and extra
mm,
stuff that makes it a pretty person. But the bones are there without
yeah,
any of it.
that's
And
very
that's
fair.
and that's what makes a good song,
Yeah,
right? When you have just
very
the
true.
bones and they're delicious by themselves.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
I gotcha. 100% understood.
Yeah.
Um, so obviously,
I think, oh, and really
yeah,
quick to add to that.
yeah,
However, if I had the budget, like when people
mm,
hear my music with my big band,
mm,
they're like, oh my God, I get your music in a
yeah,
different way. Like, because when I'm writing it, even when I'm playing just on piano and my voice, I hear every single thing
mm,
in my brain,
yeah,
like all at once. And I'm like, man, if only everyone could hear what I hear, and that's like the beauty of like making an album and doing that. And also again,
yeah,
in LA, I can play those big
mm,
shows, like because
mhm,
I have a lot of amazingly talented friends. I have like
yeah,
relationships with venues. I have like whatever, blah, blah, blah,
mm,
blah. But in other places, like, yeah, I would need like a guarantee of like a few $1,000s to pull that shit off
Oh
per
yeah.
show,
Oh yeah,
like
for sure.
minimum.
If you're
Yeah,
if
but I
you're trying
really
to do,
want to.
yeah, it's Roswell, New Mexico is not going to be able to pay you for, just like a small city like that,
They might.
maybe.
Yeah,
Oh,
they might.
so speaking of LA, since that's where you're based out of, is LA starting to come back around? Because I know there was like that big exodus of people. Is it starting to kind of come back around, or?
I think every single city is a constantly ever-changing beast. I
Mhm.
don't think it's ever fixed. I think so. The job that I lost at the beginning of the year, without going into too much detail, was for 6 years, I've run a weekly musicians open mic
Mhm.
in Los Angeles. And since the shutdown, like since reopening, we reopened in October or in August of 2021, and I didn't
Mhm.
take 1 week off
Oh wow.
until they're shutting down the venue.
Mhm.
Long story, blah blah blah. But the benefit of that, which is why I'm bringing it up, is that there are so many new musicians who have moved to LA, and because of hosting an event like that and being a curator and a booker,
Mhm.
I've gotten to meet like 200 new people who have moved here,
Wow.
and who moved here during the shutdown.
Mhm.
All of them are like, I moved here in 2020 or,
Yeah.
and I'm like, that's crazy that you moved
Yeah.
here during that time.
Yeah.
So I think that there's tons of new music, tons of
Mm.
new, like young, excited, passionate talent. There's also like just so many amazing like jam nights here. There's just such music diversity, and you can go out literally 7 nights a week to see and experience incredible live music in LA.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons I think most of us put up with how much the rent is and anything else, is because it's such a vibrant,
Mm.
alive city for art and music. It's
Yeah.
inspiring constantly, and
Yeah.
like, yeah, there's a lot of opportunity, there's a lot of like growth, there's a lot to explore. So I personally think that it's dope still.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those things where it's like during the pandemic, everybody, I think, I'm going to say everybody had that realization that tomorrow's not guaranteed. So whatever my dream is, I got to go for it. And so
Probably.
while, yes, there was a mass exodus of people leaving LA, there was just as many people that were from insert small town America here. It's like, oh, I want to move to LA. And they moved to
Yeah.
LA. Yeah. And
Yeah.
they just made it happen.
Yeah.
So,
I think a lot of because I did have a lot of friends leave LA too, and
mm,
their reason was, I'm only here to do music, and if I can't do live music, why am I here?
mm,
So they moved.
mm,
But I think and a lot of those people moved because they have like their whole family still lives
yeah.
somewhere, so they
Yeah.
just went back to their family, right, to
Yeah.
save money and all that. For me, that wasn't an option. Number one, it wasn't something where somewhere else I could have fucking gone.
Yeah.
And also like I'm a SoCal native, so I'm like,
Mm,
where would I go?
yeah.
Like, where am I going to go?
For sure. It's like
Yeah,
you could have up and moved to Nashville, but it would just be you're in the same boat, but just in Nashville. It's like
yeah,
there's a difference between moving for a purpose and moving just to move. Like,
yeah, yeah,
so whether it's
yeah,
moving to chase your dreams or, just to get out of a bad situation, it's like that's a purpose to move. But if it's like,
yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna just go move to Nashville because why not? It's like,
Yep.
well, then you're just moving to move. And yeah,
Yeah, which is great.
yeah,
I mean, moving just to move, I support it. If people have that kind of spirit, why
yeah,
not?
yeah.
But yeah, I just feel like I'm in a relationship, so I just talked to my partner and we were
Mm,
like, are you done here? Are you ready? We don't want to live here
mm,
forever. I
mm,
don't know if I want to like buy property here and like
yeah,
commit to that, but I was like, you're not done yet? I'm not done. Okay, so
yeah,
we're not done yet. We're not done
yeah,
with the city yet. So we're
yeah,
staying.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've started having that conversation with myself about Texas, and it's like, all right, I've come to realize it's either staying in Texas or going to Nashville. Those are kind of like not my only two options, but those are the only ones that I want to do right now. And I just this past week, I was like, you know what? If I had a job offer in Austin and a job offer in Nashville, I'm not leaving Texas. Texas is amazing. I love
Mm,
Texas. And it's just for more than the fact that I could walk into a place, not know anybody, and they treat me by at least they pretend like they know who I am, or they pretend like I'm their best friend. It's like there's a certain level of friendship
Hmm.
that everybody just kind of shares with each other. Yeah, you can
That's
go into a
great.
place and it's like, oh, who's this guy? Like there's definitely like that, but for the most part, I've never been more welcome in any place in my life. So
That's great. That's
yeah,
important.
yeah. So um so what else have you been up to outside of music? What are you doing just kind of to decompress these days?
I'll just talk about last year because I feel like this year has been so fresh and I
Yeah,
literally was focused on nothing but the release for the
yeah.
entire first month. But last year, I'm a really big nature person, and my boyfriend and I went to 6 national parks last year.
Nice.
We made it the year of national parks because we literally, again, hadn't been anywhere
Yeah,
for
yeah.
like a year and a half. I mean, we did a lot of like local hikes, but we didn't like, we weren't on a plane or renting cars or
Mhm.
going. So yeah, so last year was our year of hikes and our year of national parks. So we went to 6 national parks. We camped. We did like really, really big
Yeah,
hikes, like,
yeah,
14-mile
yeah.
hikes, like really big grades, a lot of climbing.
Nice.
So that's mostly what I
Nice.
did last year was like played shows,
Yeah.
went to nature, and then
Nice.
I also nanny like occasionally
Oh,
part-time. So like
nice.
hang out with little kids,
Yeah.
go to nature and climb stuff, play music. That's
Nice.
basically that's
Nice.
basically my life. And then, see friends when you can and like
Mhm.
get food and like do the
Uh,
human stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
That's
I need to
basically all I do.
I need to start going to more national parks. I recently, my dad and his I don't know what they're calling their relationship, but we'll call her a friend. And his
Okay.
friend, they were cleaning out a storage locker that my dad has a lot of his stuff in right now, and they found my golden pass that I got when I was
Mm.
super young for all the national parks, so I can get
Mhm.
into any national park for free. And it's like, I wish I'd have had this in 2019 when I was going through national parks. It would have saved me 20 bucks a pop,
Yeah. Well, you just buy it there.
Yeah. So,
You know
but
about that?
no, no.
So when you go to a national park at the gate, at
Uh-huh.
any national park, you can buy a new pass.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's called an annual pass. It's not
Uh,
free forever. It's only for a year.
yeah.
And it's normally about $88 to like
Yeah.
or I don't know if they've increased that rate, but it was
Yeah.
$88. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you can buy it at any front gate of any national park.
But the kicker for this was mine was free. I didn't have to pay for it because
Mm,
I have a physical disability, so I
mm,
went to a national park when I was really young, and they're like, "Oh, you get a golden pass," because like they're just trying to get people uh out a little bit more.
mm.
And
Oh,
so
wow.
they found this thing sitting in one of my mom's old boxes, and they're like,
Wow.
"Hey, do you still go to like national parks?" I'm like, I could have used this like a couple different times because like it was closer to drive through the national park.
Wow. Are they gonna mail it to you?
I got it in the mail about a week ago, so
Nice.
trying to see if I have it sitting around here, but I can't see
That's
it. So
amazing. That's so cool.
I'm excited. It'll be just an opportunity to get out a little bit and just
Yeah.
go do some nature stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, it's been an absolute blast chatting with you. I'm glad we were able to get
Yeah.
this back or get you back on, and hopefully it won't, or we'll get you back on, and hopefully it won't be a year, but we'll see. See what you got coming up, and if anybody wants to listen to the album or any of that fun stuff, where can they find you online?
You can go to brendacarseyart.com. Carsey is how you spell Carsey. And all of my socials are Brenda Carsey Art. So any website / Brenda Carsey Art. On streaming platforms, just Brenda Carsey, or you could just Google me because I will inevitably pop up with like tons of pages.
Gotcha.
I'm
Awesome.
findable.
That's good. Being findable is always good.
I'm easily findable. You could do it.
Nice. Awesome. And then for all the young musicians out there, what's one piece of advice you have for them?
One piece of advice I have is do what makes you happy first before doing what makes other people happy. You'll have a lot more fun and you'll be more honest and create art that actually makes you happy.
For sure. 100% agreed. Well, once again, Brenda, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's been an absolute blast.
Thank you,
And
Tom. I appreciate you having me.
if I ever make it, not if I ever make it, if next time I make it out to LA or you make it to Texas, we'll get something going. And we always do live casts and live jam sessions and all that fun stuff. So definitely love to do something in the future.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will catch you all tomorrow morning. Oh, wow. I got a podcast tomorrow morning. I just realized that. Wow. Okay.
Go to sleep.
Yeah. But once again, thank you everybody, and we will see you all in the morning.